Terrifier 3 is a 2024 Christmas slasher horror movie. Written and directed by Damien Leone, it stars David Howard Thornton, Lauren Rivera, and Elliot Fulham. Art the Clown is set to release chaos on the unsuspecting residents of Miles County as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. So I went to see this on opening night last night with a really good friend of mine, Josh Williams. He's the same guy that wrote the music in the beginning of my intro. But we had such a good time with this movie. It is everything and more that you could want in a sequel to Terrifier and Terrifier 2. I really love how Damien Leone kind of found this balance, because there were certain people that enjoyed the dark grittiness of the first one and felt like it was lacking and missing in the sequel. But there was also a lot of things about Terrifier 2 that worked, that were definitely an improvement over the first film. And you could see that he learned from both movies and he continues to progress as a filmmaker. And that just makes me so excited, because this movie is gritty and dark and uncomfortable and disturbing, and has a lot of that same energy and vibe that the first movie felt like. It has that 80s gritty slasher kind of feel to it, but it also has that bigger budget, more characters, better written, interesting characters, and all the things that were like a big improvement in Terrifier 2 over the first Terrifier. It's just a really great balance that was found here. So I think if you're a fan of the first two films, you're gonna absolutely love this one. Because with all the hype and everybody talking about gory and over the top and all these things that we heard that before Terrifier 2. And it lived up to that billing. I don't know anybody personally that was disappointed that it didn't go hard enough or wasn't more gruesome or whatever. Well, it's the same case here, at least in my opinion. I felt like this lived up to everything I was expecting and hoping for. It is just an absolute bloodbath. It's right on the edge of being too much. I mean, and I think that they just know the right balance of mixing humor and gore, and it's mean at times, but there's always this humorous element to it that just works so well, and it's what makes the Terrifier films, to me, such a good time. Now, there were a few scenes in this where it did feel a little bit mean-spirited and didn't quite have that same humor to connect it in a Terrifier way, and that could be just some of the humor that was there just didn't quite land for me, or it's just a decision of Damien Leone's to try to make this movie a little more gritty, a little more dark, a little more disturbing. Either way, I love this movie. I had an absolute blast with it. David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown is back and just absolutely killing it. Like, pun intended in this. He's so fun to watch. The guy just seems to get better and better at this character. And it's just an absolute riot. It's so entertaining to see. There were so many scenes in this that just had me almost falling out of my chair laughing. Like, I had just the belly laughs. Like, I had so much fun here. But everybody comes to these movies for the gore, and the gore is there. This movie is so gory. There is a couple scenes that are just absolutely amazing. Like, the practical effects, I don't know how they pull this off. I mean, some stuff that just looks so real that it is actually skin, you know, like goosebumps kind of stuff. That's how real some of this feels. So it's the case with all the Terrifier movies that if you're squeamish and can't handle a lot of blood or a lot of gore, these are not movies for you. But if you're a gore hound and love the splatter shit, this movie brings it. And there's a lot of moments I would like to get more in depth on and talk more about, but I'm not going to spoil anything. I want everybody to go in and enjoy it the way I did, just as blind as you can, because the less you know about this, I think the more entertaining it'll be. And once again, I felt like Lauren Rivera took an even further step into really being this leading lady, this really awesome final girl that's a badass, but also gives a really emotional, powerful performance here, because she's got to deal with all the effects of the things that happened to her in Terrifier 2. And instead of just making her like we've seen with other final girls and sequels in the past, where it's like the stuff didn't really faze her, no, she's a broken person in this movie. And that makes it so much more impactful when she has to rise to the occasion and deal with the things that happen in this film. and go on around her. Another person that I think took a big step forward was Elliot Fulham. I actually tweeted this morning and congratulated him because you could see the work he put into acting. I mean, he really brings it in this movie, and I was critical of him in the first film. I thought like his performance kind of held the movie back a little bit. He was a little wooden. It wasn't horrible. I'm not saying anything like that, but it just didn't quite land. His acting just felt not quite believable. But here, he felt very genuine, very believable. This character feels lived in. This character feels like it's been through hell and back, and he's still coming for more, and I love that. I thought it really brought something to this film. Just the acting in general, I thought took a big step forward. Everybody involved was even better in this. The people that we saw brought back, as well as new characters, like everybody gives a great performance here. Another thing that I felt took a nice step forward was the story. Because little by little, we're getting a little more of what's going on in this universe. What is supernatural and what do all these things mean? Because a lot of people were left with questions after Terrifier 2. A lot of it just didn't have an explanation, and everybody's kind of just like, okay, what does all this mean? Like, what is all the crazy stuff with the sword and this otherworldly kind of elements, these supernatural elements? And they do a really good job of kind of flushing that out even more here. You get more of an explanation, even more of kind of an understanding of what we're dealing with here, what Art the Clown is, and the other forces and things going on around. But they also didn't over explain it. It's not like they're holding your hand here. There isn't this crazy complex story either. It is really still a simple slasher, but they did add some more layers with that whole narrative. And that also fed into some really amazing visuals, especially towards the end of this movie. The special effects, the things, the theatrical elements really took another big step forward in this. I mean, some of the stuff they do in this is just awesome to see on camera. I was excited too to see, just as a filmmaker, Damien Leone taking another step forward with the editing. This movie has a shorter runtime. I still felt like you could cut off some of this. There are definitely a lot of scenes in this where they duplicate things. There's things that they could have just done once. Instead, they'll do it a number of times, and it just doesn't feel like it needs that. It could have been just trimmed here and there. The whole film could have been a little bit smoother, a little better polished. But that's nitpicking, because this is still a very small indie production, and it's just really a marvel. It's amazing what this crew and this team and really this family, this Terrifier family, is able to accomplish. Because everybody involved with this film, they're all amazing people. I've had interactions with quite a few of them, and then the rest of them I know a lot of my friends have a lot of interactions with, and they're just fantastic, real down-to-earth people, and they put everything they have, money, energy, spirit, creativity, all of it, they put it into this movie, and you can really see it. It really shows, and it's just an exciting time. I was sitting there in the theater and I was so happy after the movie, just thinking about what I just saw and how nationwide there's people that are showing up to support this movie, and all weekend and for the next few weeks to see this amazing creation. And it's all word of mouth. There's like no advertising. There's no promotions. There's no big budget, commercials and whatever. This is still a very indie movie, and yet a ton of people know about it. The buzz is huge. I mean, there's Terrifier merch everywhere. Terrifier in Spirit Halloween. And it's just such an exciting thing to see that happen, because as much as it was amazing, the run that Freddy had with Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason with Friday the 13th and Chucky and all these different franchises, they've all been big budget. They've all been put on by production companies, these big, IPs, and they have that budget behind them. It's this big overarching company that really controls what happens. In this case, it's all these people. It's all the family. It's everybody involved in this has like multiple jobs. Like these people are really giving love to the horror community. There's all these cameos of people that I know they're all friends with in this. Everything from Spencer Charnas and Ice Nine Kills doing a really elaborate, amazing music video for this, which I highly recommend checking out as well. It's just like this big family of people that are at the cons and just really involved and entrenched in the horror community. And I love that Damien Leone, instead of taking bigger opportunities, he could have put this with a big company and, you know, put a bunch of millions of dollars into producing it and commercial advertising, whatever. He could have chosen to go that route, but instead he decided to, you know what, I'm gonna keep it gory. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real fucking horror and with the people and with the community. And he made another one, and that is just amazing, so exciting. And I just hope enough people realize what a great time we live in for horror and what this actually means on a bigger scale. And I love the fact that he already announced the Terrifier 4, and once you see this, you'll be even more excited like I am about a fourth movie, because the potential and where this franchise could go and what they could do in a next movie is just, it's so exciting to think about. Another thing I absolutely loved in this movie was the overall vibe and mood and atmosphere. It's very creepy. There's a lot of scenes in this that are genuinely scary in like an uncomfortable, creepy, atmospheric way. And I don't think we saw that quite as much, especially in Terrifier 2. There were some in Terrifier 1, but this does it even more. There's these amazing set pieces, this old like abandoned house that Art's in early in the movie, and the way it looks and just the props and all the people that are involved on creative levels in this did such a great job with putting this atmospheric vibe into it. And then there's these other scenes, these Christmas scenes where it feels wholesome, it feels Christmassy, and you juxtapose that with Art the Clown running around killing people and stuff. It's just amazing. It's amazing to see that bloodiness juxtaposed with this wholesome family Christmas vibe. And I just love that this is another Christmas horror movie. Even though we're seeing it right now before Halloween, technically this is a Christmas horror movie. And it's amazing because for a long time, this movie will be talked about whenever we talk about our favorite Christmas horror movies. There's just not enough, and especially ones that go hard. By far, this is the most gory, brutal, savage Christmas horror movie we've ever got. And it has elements that felt like Black Christmas and elements that felt like other classic horror movies. You could see the callbacks to those and paying respect to those franchises. There's numerous things in this that if you're a big horror fan, you'll get what they're doing here. Not like fan service, which I love, but just a creative nod. These little tiny things that if you're not a big fan of horror and classic horror, you might not get it, but if you are, you'll notice these little ideas, these little callbacks, these little inspirations that you could tell that they had when they were putting this together. So I think this movie is absolutely brilliant. I loved it, and if you're a fan of the Terrifier movies, I think you're gonna definitely dig it just like me. If you didn't enjoy the other Terrifier movies, I doubt you're gonna like this one. It's a very similar type of thing. It is different in ways, definitely its own thing, but if you weren't sold on those, you're probably not gonna be on these. But if you're a fan like me, you need to do yourself a favor and get out to a theater and see this. Help support it, but also for your own selfish reasons, because I think you're gonna have a blast with it.
Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.
But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or you can become a channel member by clicking on the join button down there and help support the channel that way. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about The Substance, my favorite movie so far this year. And I'll see you guys next time.